Greetings everyone. On the bench today is the first bit of electronics from the pile that I grabbed that was going to e-waste or recycling, whatever. And it's the equalizer. I figured I'd see if I can fix that, if there's a problem here. Haven't tried it out yet. It's a Nikko Graphic Equalizer EQ 20. See, here are the controls. Tape monitor, EQ gain adjust, and the EQ 10-band EQ itself. You can see that this is rack mounted. So not really meant for home use, I guess, but whatever. Well, let's hook it up and see what's going on. It has a note here. It says, power's on, no sound. What I think I'll do is use my little amplifier here, little TDA 2003. I'm plugged into the solar panel. It's an overcast day. I guess I'm not plugged into the solar panel. It's an overcast day, but it's bright enough. We should have enough power. We run through a 12-volt switch mode converter there, and down to my little supply line. So we'll be eco for the EQ. There we go. And we're plugged in solar panel here. So there we go. Okay, let me get this thing plugged in and see if I can put a signal through it. Okay, I got the music player going to the input jacks back here. Output goes to the amplifier, which is powered up. Got this plugged in, and it powers up. Let's see here, are we playing? Yep, it's rolling. We got volume turned up. Yeah, this dead silent. Let's see here. Let me just try these controls. This really shouldn't matter. It's like a bypass. Yeah, this thing is, well, just like the paper says here, this thing is deader than a doornail as far as output. But it is getting power. I don't hear any noise or anything when I turn it on. No click sound or anything. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to open this thing up because, yep, it is not working. Okay, we got the top open here. And if you've never seen inside an equalizer, now you have. So these op amps here are the filters. You can see we start from the low end. The capacitors get smaller and smaller to the high end, and then this is for the right channel. And it's kind of interesting, these switches, they're not actually switches, they just move a metal strip down to the board, and this is the actual switch. So when I push this EQ in and out button, you can see that it moves. So these could be very dirty, or I don't know, I would think I'd hear something. We got some chips here. Maybe buffer, input buffer or something. Bunch of discretes over here. Power supply. Look at all that gunk around those capacitors. That's not from the capacitors themselves. It's a glue they put around there. It's like a brown color, and then as time goes by it ages, gets darker, and starts to conduct. Probably not a big deal on the power supply, but on a sensitive circuit it could you could throw the bias off. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to worry about that yet. I'll check voltages, make sure we're getting proper voltages. And check this out. One probe to ground, and the other probe I'm just touching that black stuff. Minus 7 volts. So you can see with the very light load of the meter, that stuff is conducting a little bit. But I did check the chips and getting plus 17 volts on pin 8, and pin 4 gets minus 17. Well, just a little bit less, but it seems we are getting voltage. So I guess the next thing is to trace the signal, see what's going on. Okay, so I set up my little amplifier here through an attenuator circuit. It also has some Zener diodes protecting it. So I can probe around the board. And if I accidentally touch a supply rail, it won't hurt the amplifier. So probe the input. That's the input, so obviously that's going to work. So I can probe one of the outputs of these chips here and see if it's putting anything out. I can hear something. If I turn up these levers here, I hear something. Yep. So there's signal there. And I'm not sure what this is, if it's a kind of an output buffer circuit or something. They made it discrete. You can probe around there. That must be a supply rail. I'm going through a capacitor so it doesn't shift any biases. Okay, so signal going through there. Make sure I get it in the camera. So I was touching this capacitor or this resistor. Let me try over here. It might be the left and this is the right channel. Okay. There's signal going through this thing pretty much. I wonder if one of these switches are bad. See, this is the output. There's just nothing there. These wires say out, left, and right here. I don't know if I can get my wire probe on that or not. Let's see if it maybe over here I can get it better. hard to do this with looking through a camera. Yep. It's hard to get a connection too. Come on. Yeah, there's a signal. I'm not sure where this goes here. See if I can get under this board. Hopefully I don't have to take it out. See if the back comes off, or the bottom, I guess. Oh good, I was able to get the bottom off, so I don't have to remove this board, which would be a total pain. And here's the output, and you can see it's marked left and right, and there's nothing there. And then the wires come down to here, or the traces actually. You can see left and right, they come down here to the center pins. See, this here has like a AC or something on it. But the center pins are open. But down here, we've got signal. Let me turn that up a little bit. Turn the EQ gain up. You can barely hear it. I had to switch to the YouTube safe music. So each channel is good here and open here. So what we have, here's the output, and this is like a little relay. It goes through this relay, and I see some traces come over here to this circuit. What this seems to be is like a delay. So when you turn on the EQ, it won't send the pop sound out to your amplifier. You know, when you power something up, you might get a pop sound. So this will delay that a little bit. So something's bad here. Hopefully it's not this relay, because it looks like something that would be hard to find. So let me do some tests here and see what's going on. Okay, I plugged the little amp in here so I can have some free hands. But those are reed type relays. So watch when I bring this magnet to it. We get output. Whoops. Those magnets are strong. Now I can't get it off. I'm afraid of shorting something out, but yeah, this should be sending voltage to this coil and energizing. Well, when it energizes the coil and produces magnetism, it closes those little reed switches. So apparently something is wrong with this circuit. Okay, I've been probing around here. So this is the transistor that energizes that coil, or at least supposed to, base collector emitter. If that transistor is to be on, it should have a base to emitter voltage drop of around 0.6 volts. And when I measure it, it's nothing. It's acts open. So this transistor has to be turned on to conduct. See, that goes through the coil back to the other side of the power. I did check that we're getting power to this circuit. So if I jump across the emitter collector, if I just short that, that'll energize that coil. If I can do it here with the camera. Yep. And I did check with the power off. The transistor seems good. I'm getting normal junction voltages when I test with the meter in diode mode. So something else in the circuit is dead. There's the delay capacitor. I wonder if that is maybe shorted. I'll have to check that. Okay, so I delayed. Alright, so I removed that capacitor. It's responsible for the delay time. So let's put it in this tester and see what we get here.
Any day now.
$30 pico. That was from 1 to 3. I don't know where it's coming up with that. Well, this meter won't even measure it in capacitance, so I switched it to ohms. And let's see what we get here. This is where I need an overhead mount so I can, let me adjust this camera. I just don't have the room to do all this stuff. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so make sure my finger's not touching it. But it doesn't matter because it says it's 200 ohms. So that capacitor is not doing its job. Well, let me see if I can dig up a capacitor and pop it in there. This one little quick tip here. See how I formed these leads? The way they had it, they had the leads bent out. When you do that, it puts stress where the leads go through the rubber here. And it deforms that rubber, can actually cause a small leak. I'm not saying that was the problem. I would have figured it would dry it out in that case and gone open, but it's in this case it's shorted. But anyway, so when you form it like this, it's not putting stress because the holes in the board were too wide for this capacitor here, so that, you know, they bent them out, so I wanted to bend these to be the same without stressing that rubber plug there. Okay, I got the capacitor in. Decided to clean up this mess over here. Took those caps out. I didn't really get to the pins. It's just around the edge there where they glued it. These capacitors measure good with good ESR. Since I don't have a lot of stock of capacitors, I'm not going to replace them. Here they're good, I might as well just put them back in. So yeah, I'll clean that up. There's a couple other caps like that as well, and put it back together. Well, as it turns out, I went ahead and replaced 4 more caps. Look at that one, it's all bubbly. That one was open. One of them had a high ESR of 30 ohms. The other 2 were pretty good. Yeah, they're a bit off. Enough that I figured I might as well change them. So I went and cleaned that brown gunk off. These 2 caps had good ESR and value, so I put them back in. These were replaced. These 2 were replaced. And this was that first one I replaced. So I guess it is a good argument for checking and maybe replacing caps. In fact, before I button this thing up, I might go through and check a few more caps here just to be sure. Okay, I went through and did an in-circuit test on the remaining capacitors and everything seems fine. So, still on solar power here. Better hurry up because the sun's going down. The amplifier may not work. Let's get everything hooked up. Let's power this thing up There should be a second or two of delay. There it is. And I'll go through and test each one of these, make sure it's working. I already did, and they're all fine. Of course, the music's going to stop now. Do the old smiley face pattern. Okay, I see this thing is working again. I'll test a few more things. I'll test the, there's some tape monitor positions. Just make sure those are working and call this thing done. Well, that's it for this. Thanks for watching.